ChatGPT, Bard, Siri, self-driving cars, you name it, artificial intelligence is everywhere. Today we're going to see the first game played by artificial intelligence or AI. Well, actually, this is a game played in a film, and the film I'm talking about is 2001: A Space Odyssey. If you haven't watched this film and you like science fiction and astronomy, this is a must see. And the director of this film is the legendary Stanley Kubrick, who was also a chess fan. And the reason why I like to discuss this game, well, there are many reasons. First of all, this game is taken from an actual game, but the players who played this game were not that popular. But in the film, this game was played between one of the main characters, who was an astronaut, against a computer, and they played this game in a spacecraft in outer space. And by the way, let me know how you would feel if a computer talked to you like this in a ship in space.
I'm sorry, Frank. I think you missed it.
But on a more serious note, the main reason why I would like to include this game is how someone like Stanley Kubrick could conceive this idea that computers could completely beat us in a game of chess. This film was made in 1968. By that time, computers were much weaker than humans. Nowadays, computers are way better than us, but at that time, they were fairly weak. And additionally, he imagined that computers could even be very creative, arguably even more creative than us. Nowadays, we have chess engines like AlphaZero who can play creative chess, but this was not the case back in 1968. So without further ado, let's get started with this game where a computer completely outplays a human in style. After the move e4 and e5, white played knight to f3, and here black, we're going to call this engine HAL, since AJL 9000 sounds a bit clumsy. So here HAL played knight to c6, and after bishop to b5, we get a Ruy Lopez or a Spanish game. This is a very well-known opening. Here black played a6, and after bishop to a4, we get a main line, and here HAL played knight to f6. And in this position, white played queen to e2, which is already not a very common move. Here the main line goes castling short, or d3 is another very common move. But queen to e2 is another logical move. It defends the pawn e4, and after b5 and bishop to b3, here HAL continued with bishop to e7. And in this position, white played the move c3, which is a very common move in the Ruy Lopez. Here white wants to go d4, trying to control the center, and to recapture with the pawn on c3 if black captures on d4. And here both sides castled. And in this position, black played a very interesting move by going d5. The main point is that if black plays something like d6, planning to develop the bishop as well, here white can go d4 straight away, or first play rook to d1. But after a move like d4, now white is carrying out his main plan by occupying the center. That's why d5 is a more aggressive try by black. And here in this position, white could try to hold the center, which is a safer approach, but here Frank, the astronaut, behaved like a human and went pawn takes e5, which is more greedy, since after capturing on d5, now there's an idea to capture another pawn on e5. Here black captured back on d5, and after knight takes, here white wins the pawn. But this is actually nowadays a well-known idea in the Ruy Lopez to sacrifice a pawn in order to gain a lot of activity. So here black could have taken the knight on e5, and after queen takes, play something like bishop to b7. We see that black is ahead in development. Here a common idea is bishop to d6 and then bring the queen to h4, or even going queen to d7 and then connect the rooks. That's a typical idea in the position. Black gets a lot of compensation here. But instead of taking the knight on e5, HAL wanted to be even more creative and went knight to f4. Attacking the queen, now white is not in time to capture on c6 because knight takes e2 would give a check. That's why here white has to move the queen and protect the knight on e5, so queen to e4 makes a lot of sense. And in this position, HAL played the very nice move knight takes e5, seemingly giving the rook on a8, which is the game continuation, where white will win an exchange, that we're going to analyze later, but let's evaluate some alternatives in this position, because here white has a lot of options. White can actually capture any of these two knights, plus the rook. So taking the rook is something that we're going to cover shortly, but let's evaluate the other alternatives. Taking on f4 was possible, but here white gets this very annoying idea that we'll see in the game to place a piece on d3, and it is very hard for white to develop the pieces on the queen side. Particularly the bishop on c1 is locked in by its own pieces. And taking the knight on e5 was also quite risky, because here after bishop to d6, black will develop a very strong initiative. For example, after queen to e4, white is already in trouble. After queen to h4, there's the idea to give a check by going knight to h3 and attack the queen. And if white captures the rook, here black gets a very quick checkmate after knight to e2, king to h1, and queen takes h2. That's why here Frank played the move queen takes a8, which looks very natural. I just want to mention that in this position there was a very computer-like move, which is d4. Not taking any of the three pieces is very hard for us, but d4 would have kept the balance because white keeps the ideas to capture any of the three pieces, and additionally one idea is to capture the knight on f4 with the bishop. We see that it is very important for white to complete his development, so the move d4 would have kept the game going in this very crazy position. But after queen takes a8, it was very hard to see that the game would finish very shortly. Now white is a pawn and an exchange up, but here Hal played the very nice move queen to d3, again limiting white's options, and now planning to create an attack against white's king. Here white played the move bishop to d1. There was an idea to go knight to e2, giving a check. That's why the move bishop to d1 makes sense. In any case, the position is already amazingly desperate for white. And in this position, Hal played the move bishop to h3, developing a bishop but also attacking the queen on a8. And here the game continued. Well, let's see the rest of the game directly from the film.
Anyway, queen takes pawn. Okay.
Bishop takes knight's pawn.
A lovely move. Rook to king 1.
I'm sorry, Frank. I think you missed it. Queen to bishop 3. Bishop takes queen. Knight takes bishop. Mate.
Yeah, looks like you're right. I resign.
Thank you for a very enjoyable game.
Yeah, thank you.
So let's now see the continuation over the board. Here white doesn't have a lot of options. The queen is being attacked, and after taking a pawn, now black simply gets a lot of pieces to attack the king that is only protected by a rook on f1. So here after bishop takes, queen takes is a huge threat. So after rook to e1, here black has this very beautiful queen to f3. The main threat now is to go knight to h3. And as Hal told us, after bishop takes and knight takes, we get this very beautiful checkmate. And there's no easy way to prevent that checkmate. White might delay the game a few moves, for example going queen to e6, covering the h3 square, but black can simply grab the queen. Or maybe get an escape square by going h4, but here after knight to h3, king to h2, and knight to g4, we also get a very nice checkmate. So I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really like this idea that someone could envision that computers could play very nice and creative chess. If you liked the video, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel. It will help me a lot. In any case, thanks a lot for watching, and I see you in the next video.